Nothing too bad.
Yes, the mission is absolutely
Okay, it's bad. It needs to be reset.
but it's not the top priority. You got to take care of your people. Continuing on here, excessive loss of life and high casualty figures would therefore seem like a likely indicator of military incompetence. Known cases of what seem to be purely administrative incompetence, as for example in what John Laffin has described as the imbecile Walcheren expedition of 1809. Though the purpose of this expedition was to attack
We're just going to have to reset.
were in fact kept in waiting for 8 weeks on unhealthy Walcheren Island in Zealand. In the event, and owing to the procrastination of the military commander, Lord Chatham, and the naval commander, Sir Richard Strachan, 7,000 men died, 14,000 had their hearts permanently ruined, and thousands more became ill, mostly from malaria. Only 217 were killed in action.
So we're just going to adjust the inputs. So basically these need to be switched. So up is going to be replaced with down, and
Just a disaster from an administrative perspective, but only 217 were killed in action. While dying men were given no attention and little to eat, as Laffin remarks, sick men were expendable.
alright, so we just flip-flopped it, and hopefully that might have fixed it. We're going to find out. Sorry about the wait, people.
Casualties from enemy action as a result of the
There we go.
incompetence of senior military commanders. The men who perished in the attack on Fort Booyah in the Indian Mutiny, the thousands of casualties from the Germans' use of gas in 1915, the 13,000 who went into captivity following the siege of Kut, and the 138,000 casualties of Singapore.
Why is it doing that?
Americans who died in Ardennes.
Everything's backwards.
And the 17,000 British, American, and Polish who were killed, wounded, or reported missing at Arnhem fall into this category. So he's got
Weird.
these, I should have broken this out earlier. He's going through the three different types, or the different types of how you waste people's lives. The first one is just administrative. The second one is bad planning. And then the third one is the third and most costly type of wastage. Is that the deliberate policy of attrition adopted by commanders who regarded soldiers as wholly expendable, generals for whom the conservation of human life ranked lower in importance than various other criteria which were governing their actions. This is when your plan is, oh, a lot of people are going to die. Fast forward a little bit, he says, in all this we are anticipating a theory of military incompetence rather different from that held by proponents of the so-called bloody fool theory. Perhaps we are being too complicated, perhaps intellectual deficit could explain the data, less than before considering the other factors contributing to military incompetence, first examine this older and more favored hypothesis. And so what he's saying here is there's a lot of people that just say, oh, people make mistakes, and they make mistakes because they're dumb. They're just dumb military leaders, and that's why they make these mistakes. They're just stupid. And, well, he's going to talk about the fact that, yeah, you can account for some of that, but
We're just going to flip-flop it, people.
very intelligent leaders making really stupid decisions, and obviously his hypothesis is that's because of their psychological nature. So here we go to chapter 14, the intellectual ability of senior military commanders. T.E. Lawrence of Arabia said, I feel a fundamental crippling curiousness about our officers. Too much body and too little head.
Alright, I'll be right back and get another controller.
He was very, very smart.
This controller might be bust.
I see a lot of people that are too bright. Too much body, too little head. What grounds are there then for the most popular explanation of military incompetence? There's a suggestion that the armed forces do not attract the best brains. A call-up survey in the United States put the status of Army officers below that of professors, physicians, clergymen, and school teachers. As Morris Janowitz remarks, a liberal ideology holds that since war is essentially destructive, the best minds are attracted to more positive endeavors. it's like one of those statements. You go, well, you know, if you're making that statement, if you're a really smart person, are you thinking, hey, what do I want to do? Do I want to go out and build the next great energy platform, or do I want to go out and kill a bunch of people? You think, oh, well, maybe the people that are a little bit smarter will lean towards building the next great energy platform. See, that's the statement.
What was the thing with the atomic bomb, where like the technology was like made for something, or the idea was like the technology was made for something, but then you got another group of people who are like, oh, that's cool technology, let's use it for this automatically, you know, like the bad stuff. That's all what we always think, right? A lot of the time, where it's like, oh, that's good technology.
Yeah.
Who's gonna weapon? Like someone's gonna weaponize it. You know, it's like that's the fear.
Like you put you and me in a room, and you're like, hey, we've created this thing that can create a massive amount of energy, and you're thinking, cool, we can power the world. And I'm thinking, cool, we can blow up our enemies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Alright, so here we go. Let's see if that fixed it.
It says here in Training for Generalship, it seems that intellectual ability is not always counted for very much. Even Haig, the educated soldier, became commander-in-chief of the British Army in the First World War.
No, it's flip-flopped. No, it's not the controller.
This Dowland Scott, described by Duff Cooper as the dumps of the family, and by Lord George as utterly stupid. So you are getting some dumb people here. Fast forward a little. Certainly a brilliant performance in military schools is no guarantee of subsequent ability. General Hawley, whose secession of defeats culminated in 1881 and its own demise at Java Field, had the distinction of passing through Staff College with the highest marks on record. The relevance of early scholarship to subsequent generalship also finds support in Napoleon and Wellington, both of whom achieved very low grades in school, and in more recent times in the early academic movements of Lieutenant General Percival definitely availed in little in Singapore. So he's given all these other examples, right? You got Percival, who led that total disaster in Singapore, who was academically brilliant. Napoleon and Wellington, who were great generals, who were jumped in school. And another guy, General Hawley, who was a disaster on the battlefield and yet had the highest marks on record. So the statement is like, hey, you can be really smart and do well. You can be really smart and do horrible. You can be moderately smart and do well. You can be moderately smart and do horrible. So I think the statement here is like, well, it's not, intellect is only part of it, right? Intellect is only part of it. What about fighter pilots? I mean, look, so in the SEAL teams for a while, they were recruiting these really, really smart Ivy League, you know, Harvard, Yale. There was all this whole crew of officers that were coming in. They were clearly highly intellectual, smart people. And they stopped recruiting those people so heavily. The reason they stopped recruiting those people so heavily was two reasons. One was they would do.
How can it be a Simon conflict? There's the different axes.
And two was they weren't that good. There was no correlation to someone that was really smart to someone that was a really good leader on the battlefield.
Yeah, I think it's the same. I really do. I don't think the personality profile, you know, or even just the motivational profile of a lot of people in the military is all that different. Certainly when I think about SEALs and pilots, and as often as you and I kind of contrast those two types of people, there's a ton of similarity there. And, you know, the different services in aviation have different sets of requirements. And, you know, I think the Marine Corps has the lowest, I guess, standard of academic excellence in terms of like what you studied and how well you did. I mean, the old joke in the Marine Corps was, you know, if you got a 2.0 in underwater basket weaving, you could be a pilot. You know, it's the joke. And you know, what they were saying really was,
Try it out.
You know, we don't really care what you study. Now, you got to have a college degree, and I think that does demonstrate some willingness and ability. I'm not sure which is more important to get through a long-term project. That, hey, I'm going to dedicate 4 years to getting this.
Shouldn't be going.
It demonstrates, hey, you got some planning, you got some interest, you got some intellect, something that's going to reveal that you have something that's going to be hard to do. You're going to be willing to do that. You getting a 4.0, you know, in aerodynamics versus a 2.0 in poli-sci, we don't really care. That was kind of the Marine Corps' general approach. A little bit different for the other services. But was kind of laughing and kind of thinking about this thing from a larger standpoint of these great military leaders that maybe didn't have the best records academically. I mean, the two thoughts that I have is academics in the military.
Okay, now I'm having a problem with the right and left.
You need to be a genius to get perfect scores in your tests. And the ones that don't do that well.
Yeah, now I'm at... God damn it.
This is dumb. This is a waste of my time. What's the minimum grade requirement? Cool. Reveals some level of intelligence. I'm not going to waste my time on all this stuff that I don't really want to be doing. I'm not going to fail either. So for you to sort of explain, there's some really good leaders that didn't do so hot, and then there's some guys that just were absolutely brilliant on paper that were terrible. That is not a stretch for me at all to picture that in aviation or anywhere in the military. Like, I think I know who those guys are. Yeah, and really, ain't anything. There's no. I'm trying to think of a job.
Look at you, Michelle. I'm streaming right now and I'm trying to fix things. Yeah, it does make you in a bad mood, yeah. Things don't go right. Okay, hold on a minute. I'm just gonna have to re-fucking do everything.
This person is the person that we want in that job. Yeah. But as soon as that person is in charge of people,
there we go.
Or as soon as there's some level of creativity or problem solving, because there's some, what you want is a person that's the composite has a bunch of different skills. I mean, you would think for being a pilot, there's got to be, that like the spatial, like when I took the officer candidate test, and you've got to do this spatial recognition, where how far away is this, or is this aircraft, or is this bird coming to you, or going away? You've got to tell from looking at it. Obviously, someone could be really, really smart and suck at that test. Right. Not to mention eyesight, not to mention reaction time, like all those different things. And it's the same thing with leadership. You can have someone that's super articulate. There's really articulate people that aren't really that smart. I mean, I served with some people like that. They're really articulate. They can put a word together. What do people call them? That's a skill set that, like a salesperson. There's really good salespeople. They're not the smartest people in the world, but they're incredible. They're incredible conversationalists. Yeah, right. But you wouldn't want to put them into a situation where they've got to stand up and talk in front of people if they don't have that skill. So just because someone is smart, it's only like
we finally fixed it. The settings is very, very sensitive, by the way. The settings. So when you're adjusting the settings on your emulator, on your PC, and you're trying to get a Nintendo Genesis controller or Mega Drive controller to sync up, you have to be very careful with the settings. Just take your time doing them. They're very, very sensitive. We finally figured it out. At first I thought the D-pad or the direction pad, I thought this right here was broken, but it actually isn't, so. It's just the settings are really, really, yeah. I'm playing Streets of Rage today because I can't exactly go around kicking people's ass in real life due to injuries and due to, getting charged with breaking the law, so. Well, I'll kick some ass in Streets of Rage today. They don't really have a decent, upgraded game of this. They have the Streets of Rage 4, but it's not as good, to be honest with you, than the original. The original is the best. Yeah, the graphics are not as good and as smooth, but the gameplay is just better. The music is better. It's just great. It's just such a more fun game, to be honest with you. Oh, guys. Here we go.
Necessary to say, finally, as you grow older, try not to be afraid of new ideas. New or original ideas can be bad as well as good. But whereas an intelligent man
got a crowbar. It was a piece of pipe. Not a crowbar, it's a pipe.
Those who allow their brains to atrophy, report, resort to meaningless catchphrases, to derision and
we're gonna get, yeah. In that situation, we should have just kicked. I don't eat meat, so I shouldn't have eaten that. Get my protein from soybeans and broccoli and stuff like that. Plant-based, you know, legumes and.
Military network that he had some hand in designing. It was some sort of special transport. That's what they carried his body in. But here he is. This is just an incredible thing to think about. It's an incredible
Lanky son of a bitch.
You know, I said at the muster, I said,
It's alright. He's going down regardless. Just give it time.
When you hear stuff like this, when I hear stuff like this, I aim it at myself. Don't be afraid of new ideas. And this is what an intelligent man with an open mind can demolish a bad idea by reasoned argument. What I like about that is
Axel's a little bit smaller, but he's more powerful.
and you that your plan isn't good or that there's a hole and there's a problem. There's something going on here. Maybe it's my ego, maybe it's my emotions, maybe I just don't like you. But if I can't explain to you why your plan isn't good, and the only thing I'm finding is, you know what, we're doing it my way. Overcome you is by, well, I'm just afraid to be like, we've always done it this way. Or we need to stick with the plan. Right? Those are just catchphrases, and that's what I'm going to say. Or I just say,
Get away from my gold punk.
Dave's always on his own freaking program. Like, I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to get mad.
This would be so sweet to do in real life, just to go around kicking every punk's ass, every thug and punk. Without no law enforcement saying, you can't do that. Or no one saying, don't do that to that person. Dude, they're punks, they're thugs, they deserve it. They've got weapons. They've got a big mouth on them. You know, foul mouths. They deserve every piece. Justice should be served to these kinds of people, man. Dangerous to society, you know? You see no one talking crap about when John Wick goes to work. The normal people, oh no, you can't do that. This movie, man. You can get away with it in a movie. Real life, people think you're a nutter. I'm all for people with justice, man. People that go around and, you know, protect the frickin' weak, protect the vulnerable, all this and that.
He doesn't care. His ego's not involved at all. And he doesn't care. And most of the time, by the way, he gets out because he knows the truth. So that's why I try and be with someone confronts me with an idea. I'm stoked. Oh, well, you see it got me off balance. Awesome. Either I can recover myself because I have the information or a better perspective, and we can discuss it logically, and I can say, oh, yeah, I can point it out to you. Or you can because and it didn't make any sense. So I'm actually happy about that. Open your mind. Fast forward like this. Inbreeding of the uneducated, however, was resisted by the later Nazi committee, who, depressed by what they found, considered that, one, the general education of cadets should be continued. Two, young officers showed any capacity for command. This was a necessity that they were doing. There was too much drill, too much rigid discipline, and too much cramming for marks. Four, the instructors were mediocre and selected for practice, aims, and smartness rather than for their knowledge of the subject they had to teach or their qualifications as teachers. Much the same, again, this was an assessment, sorry I skipped it, but this was an assessment that got done of how
2-on-1, what a coward.
Army officers. And then it says, much the same picture has been painted of Britannia, forerunner of the Royal Naval College of Dartmouth. Again, the emphasis was on blind obedience, sport and ceremonial, with scant regard to intellectual pursuits and little pride in knowing one's job.
If you need like a team of you to take someone down, one person down, that's just, it's kind of like cowardness, you know. If you've got like, you know, a team against a team, yeah, fine, but you're putting a whole team against one, it's just something about that I don't agree with.
about the people that when you
I'm only calling in cops backup if there's a lot of people. If it's overwhelming force, I'll call the cops to help with this game. But I'm not one-on-one, two-on-one, like, it's not really overwhelming odds to me.
You used a word, I think you pulled it from the book twice, and then I think you said it once, and I wrote it down. It was, all of this is a feature of the system. All of this is a feature. And I think he was using it initially in this part of, I'm just trying to paraphrase what you said was, hey, listen, you know, the bell curve doesn't exist everywhere, but there was something like 8 those that sort of make it to this level of senior leadership. We're talking about generals and admirals or, you know, lords or whatever. There's something a little different about the ones that make it up to that level. And how it isn't quite just the same bell curve of everybody else where you got some sort of people.
Apple and money. Good combo.
And what I've been trying to find about what that is kind of what you described as what's unique about those people. Those people figured out how to navigate the system.
God damn it, doesn't... There you go.
We're all living in because you don't know how smart you are or dumb. I don't care who or what you are, what rank, what service, or where you came from. At the beginning, you're just trying to figure out how the system works. And if you figure out, it's the job is in charge of. At the end, I get my choice of assignment strictly based on my GPA. Oh, okay. It's what a lot of folks are going to do that figure that out. I'm just going to worry about the grades. Oh, John, just get this thing. This thing. So when you say, hey, we're going to go drill, you do some more drill, or hey, Dave, you got some free time, what do you want to do? Hey, boss, you know what we should do? We should go drill. And all of a sudden, I'm going to start maneuvering my way through the system to appeal to what you know is what you want. Some of the words of things that are appealing, brute force is appealing.
Go, go, go.
It's appealing. It sounds cool. You know what doesn't sound cool? Deception. I'm going to take an indirect approach. Doesn't sound cool. Caring about people doesn't sound cool. Being nice doesn't sound cool. Being an intellectual for the military, blowing things up sounds cool. Being an intellectual, and I can figure out early on what is going to appeal to you, whoever my boss is or the school is or the intent is, the system. And that's what it's about. The bell curve's different at the top because they figured out how to navigate the system. What the system wants. And what the system wants is whoever's in charge, that thing that appeals to them, which is things like, what would you rather have? Someone who a pragmatic thinker who's willing to give up on his plan and go in a different direction, or someone who never gives up. You know, how many times are we going to talk about the direct approach and not forget the idea that sounds
Picking on two is tough.
sounds right. I'm just going to come at him and tell him the truth. As opposed to, I'm going to play the long game. I'm going to think strategically. I'm going to keep my ego in check. I'm going to consider that I might be wrong. And I'm going to move slowly in this direction until we come to a logical conclusion, or I'm just going to gap this target and run it over. And the ones that figure out the system and how to navigate that, it makes sense that at the top, there actually is a different bell curve of people than those of us at the beginning, who actually, some of us don't figure out how to navigate that system.
Yeah, and well, I don't know if I necessarily fully agree with you, because I think that the system, you're going to agree with me, I say this anyways, but the system, there's people that how to figure out the system because they lack the ability to actually transit through the system on their own merit. Right. So that's one group of people. There's another group of people that transit through the system and promote through the system because they're good. You mentioned at the beginning of this, you and I both work for incredible officers at all levels, incredible senior enlisted at all levels, and some of those, the people that were awesome, they made it through the system. The system worked. They didn't have to play a game. They didn't have to manipulate. They did what they knew they should do, and they went up through the system, and they were great. But there's another group of people. That's a group of people you're talking about. Yes. That they don't have the capability, but they figure out. You know, Adam McGuire, we were talking one day, and he said, you know, I think he had gone over to see the SEALs secure, or the BUD students secure from Hell Week. And he came back, I didn't go with him for whatever reason, he came back and says, you know, Hell Week 1 proves one thing, yeah, it proves one thing, it proves out. I actually said back to him, I said, you know, there's a group of people that also go through Hell Week and make it through Hell Week, and what it proves is that they figured out how to get through. Because there's things you can do in Hell Week. It's actually going through Hell Week. You just, if you can carry the head, if you put your head over the freaking boat, I know this doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but you carry these freaking boats on your head for a week straight, and you guys permanently lose, some guys, not the rest, some guys permanently lose their hair on the top of their head because it gets so, that freaking boat is just grinding on it. And it hurts your neck, hurts your head, you have freaking scabs on the top of your head, whatever. There's some guys that figure out how to, now you can't just take your head off, but you also, you know, maybe you don't quite put as much into it. There's guys that figure out, you know, when you're carrying the boat at a low ready, which is just carrying at your side, which again doesn't seem like a big deal until they fill the sand and water, and also, you know, have your back. So kind of, so there's guys that figure out where to come in on the run where they're going to get fleeced in the attention. Where to be in the chow hall line where no one's going to pay any attention. They figure out how to get through. And I would say Hell Week is probably a pretty small amount of those people, but you certainly would see a couple guys you go, man, how does he look fresh right now? Some guys you look, oh, that guy's fresh because he's a badass. Some guys you'd be thinking, how does that dude look fresh right now? What just happened? So, yeah, in any system, there's going to be a way to maneuver and manipulate through the system where if you don't have the chops to actually get it done, you can still get there.
Yeah, obviously I do agree with that, and I think that's why there is a little bit more of a contrast at the top than there might be elsewhere. When you're looking at the different types of people, and the contrast, to his point, usually doesn't reveal itself until you get to this, and he illustrates all these catastrophic things, and you're looking back and thinking, how could someone be in that position, do the things that they're doing? And I really think what you're describing is there's two different types of people. The ones that are doing it when you sit on their parents, they still have to do a good job. You can't maneuver the system and be terrible at what you're doing. But you can find your way to kind of maneuver inside of that system and be in that category of people that sometimes will go, oh, he's a general, he must be awesome. This is how this person got there, but you won't see that. It won't be revealed as to what this person is until he's in one of those situations. And I think that contrast
Shit ton of enemy.
that he's alluding to is like it's a little bit different there. It's more stark because at the very beginning, so figured either of those things out yet. We're still figuring out, hey, what do we need to do, and how does the system work? And you should blend the two. I want to work inside the system. I want to work against the system and be so resistant to the system that the system gets rid of me.
So I'd say, what about those leaders that are incredible leaders? They're dynamic. They have these great personalities. They have a good tactical sense, but they can't play the game at all.
They can't play the game at all.
Right. And now they never get promoted.
And have no influence. That's right.
Tell me, Hackworth didn't play the Hackworth played the freaking game for a long time. Played the game like massively. He loved it. He wasn't even playing the game. He was in the game. He was the freaking player. And he's an example of a guy that he played the system. He got those jobs. He did those things. But he also was highly skilled as a leader. And there's plenty of people that would have done, and there's plenty of people that did the exact same thing as Hackworth, minus the leadership capability.
You're supposed to
get
go
hard job.
up against that, man.
Billet, right? Yeah. In the SEAL teams, we have the same thing. You get a hard fill billet somewhere. After you do your hard fill billet, they literally will give you any job you want. Well, cool. Hey, I'm probably not going to get promoted on that, but I'm just going to jump on that hard fill billet. Get on with that. They send you overseas on the company for 2 years. Boom. And you come back. Now, there's some guys that do that because they're freaking good team players. And they go, you know what? I don't want someone else to have to do this. Yeah. You know what? My kid's just left for college. I don't have anything to worry about for 2 years. Boom. I'm going to go take this hard fill billet, take one for the team. There's some people that do it for that reason. Totally. There's some people do it because they're going, I can't get after this. So. That's because they don't match up and they're incongruent. They're in disagreement. Most noises are in disagreement. So dissonance means that you have things in your head that don't agree. There's things in your head that don't agree. And it's what people do and how people handle things in their head that don't agree. This is the important part. Because with any situation that you have, there's going to be different sides to every argument. There's going to be different sides for me. If we're going to go to the target, part of your brain should be saying, like, okay, this looks like something we can get done. Part of it is saying, okay, this looks like there's a lot of risks as well. You have two different things in your head, two different incongruent thoughts in your head. They're not the same. So cognitive dissonance means I have two things in my head that don't match. How do you handle it? That's the question. How do you handle it? This uncomfortable mental state arises when a person possesses knowledge or beliefs which conflict with a decision he has made. So let's go even one step further. Made a decision, and now I'm getting some different information. Only the hypothetical situation should make the matter. A smoker experiences dissonance because the knowledge that he smokes is inconsistent with the knowledge that smoking causes cancer. Since he finds it impossible to give up cigarettes, he tries to reduce dissonance, concentrating on justifications for smoking and ignoring evidence for its risks. He may tell himself that the revenue from tobacco helps the government, that it keeps his weight down, and that it is a manly, sociable habit. At the same time, he may well refrain from reading the latest report on the relationship between smoking and lung cancer. If, on the other hand, he cannot avoid being confronted by tiresome statistics, he may well strive to reduce dissonance by telling himself and others that the correlation between smoking and cancer could just as well be taken to signify that people who are going to get cancer anyway tend to smoke in order to ward off the disease. So you're just telling yourself lies to try and even out that disagreement in your own head. Since it was first propounded by Festinger in 1957, dissonance theory has given rise to a large number of empirical studies. Though the precise nature of the underlying psychological processes is far from clear, there are certain conclusions which could have serious implications for military decision-making. They may be summarized by saying that, quote, once the decision has been made and the person is committed to a given course of action, the psychological situation changes decisively. There is less emphasis on objectivity, and there is more partiality and bias in the way in which the person views and evaluates the alternatives. End quote. In other words, decision-making may well be followed by a period of mental activity that could be described as, at the very least, somewhat one-sided. Yeah. Dude, I got halfway into that sentence, and you were just shaking your head because you've seen this happen.
Totally. And you did that list earlier. The one that I was coming back to as you're talking about it, and the hard part about it is you know what he's going to say before he's even saying it. Now, you know what's coming when he's describing this. Here's the plan. Jock goes down in the front, sends me a report, goes, hey, boss, things are a mess down here. And I'm like, no, they're not that bad. They're not that bad. We're fine. We're just going to keep doing this. And hey, listen, it's gotten much worse. And rationalization, all those words, but the willingness to just ignore the truth because it is inconvenient with the conclusion I've already drawn. And how quickly I can go, you know what, his feedback is, it's based on what he's seeing. It's not really, he doesn't know what's really going on. It doesn't have the big picture, so we're just going to keep it.
Plus, Jock was kind of emotional.
Yeah. And
plus, he's it just started. He doesn't have that much combat experience. He's getting shot at. Yeah, shell's freaking out.
He doesn't think I'm trying to,
just rationalize that shit all day long. Here's another thing you were talking about. Like, who do you want? What is it? What is the cool military leader? What do we think of? Here's one. Would you say, I'm going to promote this guy who has a lot of self-doubt? Right? We're not promoting that guy. But what's interesting is I am so filled with self-doubt that when I come up with a plan and Dave Burke sends a report back from the front line, it's like, hey, Jocko, we got heavy resistance here. I'm like, okay, I must have been wrong. I'm missing something. Does this mean I'm not going to freaking push forward? No, it doesn't mean that, but it means I'm actually doing the opposite of this trying to balance out the dissonance. I'm paying more attention because I think I might be wrong.
The irony
irony in that truth. The irony is how you've described you having a reputation of being so decisive in your time in the teams was based on that belief that you could be wrong, which is why you made these incremental decisions. You didn't overcommit to the end. Was actually driven by what you just described as,
the term self-doubt doesn't have like this positive, connotation, but it's like, oh, hey,